Good morning, everyone. I am Dimar Ari Eliaso, and I will be the one who will going to tackle to you about the resistant materials in technology education. Nowadays, technologies play a vital role in nearly every aspect of daily life, from communication and education to healthcare and businesses. Modern technology makes tasks faster, more efficient, and often more accessible. Smartphones, the internet, and advanced software connect people globally, while innovations like artificial intelligence and automation transforms industry. Overall, technology shapes how we live, work, and interact in today's fast-paced world. Materials play a key role in daily life. Understanding their variety and use is vital in design and technology education. That's what we discussed today, the real-world approach to teaching resistant materials in primary and secondary schools such as the metals, plastics, and woods. It emphasizes learning on three pillars such as the knowledge, skills, and context. The goal of this discussion is to guide us in delivering relevant and effective materials in education. Our world is full of things made from different materials from smallest to largest. Examples are the bowls, chairs, buildings, and vehicles. Materials help products work properly and also affect how we see and use them. Designers choose materials carefully to make sure their products are not only function well, but also feel and look right to people. According to Dorman of 2003, historically, materials are closely tied to the development of civilization and technological advancement of products. Throughout the history, the materials people use like stones, bronze, iron, steel, and plastic have shaped how civilization grew and what they could achieve. In fact, entire periods in history are named after materials. Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, showing how important they were. As the new materials were discovered or invented, they allowed people to create better tools, stronger buildings, advanced machines, and new types of products, pushing technology forward. That means the development of civilization and the progress of products are deeply connected to the materials available at that time. According also to Ashby and others of 2013, from primitive eras utilizing only wood, stone, leather, and bones, science and engineering have now created around 160,000 materials for potential application in products. In early human history, people only used the natural materials like the wood, stone, leather, and bone for tools, shelter, and other basic needs. These were the only materials they had access to that time. However, thanks to the advances in science and engineering, we now have around 160,000 different materials that can be used in product design and manufacturing. This includes metals, plastics, ceramics, composites, smart materials, and more. Now let's proceed to the use and appraisal of materials. There are two main dimensions to the use and appraisal of materials in product-related design activities. The first one is the technical or performance dimension. It refers to the materials choices supporting the proper functioning of a product in different materials. Different materials have different properties that affect how product performs. Designers and engineers select materials depending on what the product needs to do. For example, its strength, elasticity, weight, and others. The second one is the human or the experiential dimension. It refers to materials choices that take into account people's appraisal system. When designers choose materials, they don't only think about the performance. They also consider how people react and connect with materials. For example, they look into its historical meaning. A homeowner renovates their kitchen and chooses marble countertops. Why? Because they associate marble with timeless beauty and classical architecture, giving the space and sense of history and elegance. And in cultural aspects, a designer creates a tea house using a bamboo and paper screens in Japan. Why? These materials are deeply rooted in Japanese tradition, symbolizing simplicity, harmony with nature, and cultural authenticity. See, That is the human experiential dimension. Again, designers not just look on the material's performance, but they also consider how people view and interpret the material. A full spectrum of user experience from comfort and usability to pleasure and ownership and use is implicated in material choices and tied to the qualities of materials that people can sense and perceive. The first one is aesthetic. Some people like wooden table than the one that is made of plastic because it is more cozy and appealing to visitors. Aesthetic is how people are pleased and displeased by materials, while the emotions, it is how people feel towards the materials. For example, someone buy the floral patterned cotton fabric because it reminded it of her grandmother's house. Next, the last one is the behavior. How people and behavior is how people act and react because of that materials. After knowing what are the different users' experience in materials, we will jump on the capability of materials in decision making. How the designer choose and design using some products. According to Norman, 1998, the good design work involves three main parts: the knowledge, values, and skills. It means knowledge means having an understanding or awareness of materials, their properties, uses, and how they behave. It's about knowing what a material is made of, how it works, and how to work with it effectively. It has two main categories, the intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic as or the innate aspects are the natural physical properties of material that can be tested or felt. For example, a metal is strong, hard, and conducts electricity. These are its built-in scientific qualities. While the extrinsic, the immaterial aspect, are the ideas or meaning people attach to that materials. Gold is often seen as valuable or luxurious. This is not about its physical property, but how people perceive it. In short, intrinsic is what the materials is, while the extrinsic is what the material means. A designer's values and preferences shape how they approach their work, guiding decisions among many possible options. This includes consideration like the material's origin, energy used in recycle, whether it's natural or synthetic, perceiving its authentic look and feel, and aligning with the values that people for the people they design for. This personal perspective is key to creating meaningful and intentional design. The third one is the skills. In relation to materials and design, it may be practical oriented or intellectual oriented. Practical oriented, this involves hands-on work materials, example, cutting and shaping wood to make a chair or testing how strong the plastic by bending and stretching it. While the intellectual oriented skills, this involve thinking and decision making about the materials. Identifying whether a material is metal, plastic, or ceramic, choosing the best material for a phone case based on its weight, strength, and cost. Clearly, there exist considerable differences and challenges in learning and teaching of practical-oriented and intellectual-oriented skills, especially considering the developmental capacity of young school children. Practical-oriented and intellectual-oriented skills are notionally associated with the acquisition of empirical knowledge and propositional knowledge, respectively. These matters are discussed in greater detail in the following section. So now, let's tackle about the materials in the national curriculum of England. It is important to look at how materials education fits into overall school curriculum. For example, in England's primary and secondary school, it is as of 2016. Materials are taught in different ways across the subject. So, let's see the table below. For example, in science subject, there is a chemistry, physics, and biology. In chemistry, they focus on investigating and understanding the composition of materials, while in physics, they understand the functioning of materials, while in biology, they investigate and understand the biological composition and functioning of materials. For examples of those are the periodic tables, the phase transition, Prague radiation, magnetism, corrosion, study of living tissue, the cellular structure, organism, and enzymes. While in technology subjects, there are, for example, the materials in engineering, they create and develop advanced materials. In design engineering, using materials to deliver product utility. And while in industrial design, they use materials to deliver product experiences. Not only in England, but also in many other countries like here in the Philippines, school subjects include topics about the properties of materials. This approach helps students understand materials from both a scientific and practical point of view, preparing them to work with materials effectively in the future. Now, there are two types in learning the materials. First one is here on the screen, the propositional knowledge of materials or the knowing that. And the second one is the empirical knowledge of materials or the knowing how. Propositional knowledge is the kind of knowledge you can write down or say out loud. It's clear, factual, and shared using language, numbers, and diagrams. It uses terms especially in measurement like the centimeters, kilograms, pounds, feet, and more. This kind of knowledge is the focus in later year of school and university, especially in technical subjects like science, math, and engineering. This makes it easier for everyone to understand, compare, and use materials all over the world, no matter where they are. While the empirical knowledge of materials or the knowing how is explaining the value of hands-on practical learning, especially in design and technology education. It contrasts book knowledge or the propositional with real-world experience-based learning and shows why both are important, but especially the second when dealing with materials. Unlike empirical can define based on their experience in materials. Is it hard, soft, rough, smooth? This kind of learning happens when students work with real materials, solve real problems, and practice real skills. You might hear it called the learning by doing or the hands-on learning. Students don't just read or hear about something, they actually do it. Materials for design and technological decision-making span the more obvious and visible application in infrastructure, buildings, and product external components, through to less obvious and visible application. To the designers in training, a wide vocabulary in materials is seen as a catalyst for increasing the quantity and diversity of ideas generated to design brief. Materials are inextricably linked to the success of new products. The study of materials within the frame of technology and design education must provide students with a clear window on the material world, through which they can not only competently appraise materials, but crucially make effective connections between materials and the new products. Everyone, that concludes my report about the resistant materials. Hope you understand what we tackled today. And my reference is the Handbook of Technology and Education by Mark J. DeVries. Thank you so much, everyone.